We are being hailed by the Borg.
On screen.
Begin log. Welcome, Collective, to episode 10 of A Strange New Pod. We approximate this discussion will be an hour in length, although I have allotted 15 minutes for Ensign Brittany's puns and digressions. 7 of 9 listeners recommend tuning in live to our Twitch. If you have not already, you will eventually be assimilated. Join us for our 10th episode. Joining us for our 10th episode. Damn it, Borg never messed up, and I've already... I can't see because I covered my own eye.
First to mess up the collective.
This is why you are 2 of 9.
Now I am 2 of 10. Okay.
Someone just got Harry Kimmed.
Oh.
I don't know why I didn't cover my eye. I've had surgery on. Like, that would have made more sense. I have better vision in this one. Sorry. Scene.
Continue.
Joining us for our 10th episode is a renowned member of the collective. Co-host from one of our favorite Star Trek podcasts out there, Myrriah Gossett. Joins us from Star Trek Discovery Pod. Welcome!
Resistance is futile. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I thought my bit was good until I messed up. I'm only human, though. I'm only human.
Oh, but
You are not Borg.
I'm not. Oh, that was so sad. Anyway, as always, big thanks to Sam Dillard and Samo Studios for our awesome intro music. And I'm going to give you our guest treatment and ask, what's your favorite Trek character or episode, if you want to share that?
Ooh, I mean, it's hard. I've been recently reevaluating my favorite Trek characters because I love new Trek so much. Mm-hmm. So I think I will do a top 3 currently, which will always include Janeway. Janeway was my full introduction to Star Trek, and I love her dearly. And then I think I'm going to also say Mariner and Tilly are my other 2 right now. So
those are like my current favorites. Well, no, yeah. Hold on. It's hard because I love Michael and Saru so hard.
I know, but it's like, if you want to round out the top 5, like, yeah. Obviously.
You can throw a dart and just like hit any Discovery character and you'll be like, I love them. I'd give my life for them.
Exactly.
So,
Killy.
Yeah. Killy forever. So... why are we doing the episode this week? Wouldn't the audience like to know? Well, there was a recent article over at trekmovie.com. We'll include the link later, blah, blah, blah. And it puts forth the theory that the Omega particle, which is showcased in Voyager's 21st episode of season 4, which I finally caught up on.
Back when we had 20-something episodes a season.
Right? Oh my God. I love it, though, because I'm just like, this is so great. Give me all the Trek.
Back when writers' rooms had to struggle to find any kind of content and pushed out episodes like Masks on TNG.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, how many weeks are in a year? Oh, God. Let's do a 4-parter for the finale.
Excellent.
Yeah, right. So the episode, the Omega Directive, is directly responsible for the burn. That's what people are theorizing. The cataclysmic event that Book said was when the galaxy took a hard left. We're going to hear it. If you can even make that sound with like a warp drive.
Of course you can.
Yeah, they hum. They can do whatever. You can just... Could you imagine if they did that? You're just...
Kayla could do a donut around like a planet. They can do anything.
Awesome piloting. Real quick, we had a Twitch comment from Naira Light talking about favorite characters. Would you give your life for Lorca, though?
Are we talking?
What,
I don't know. Are we talking
Lorca
Mirror Lorca? Prime Lorca? Exactly.
You've never met Prime Lorca, and Mirrored Lorca is a really good way of brainwashing you and convincing you to do things you shouldn't be doing. I don't know. He might convince me.
His eyes, man. His eyes. His shiny eyes.
If he gave me a fortune cookie, I'd be like, yeah, I'd die for you.
damn you, Jason Isaac, and your haunting eyes.
Right? I don't know if I'd die for Lorca. There are lore causes to die for.
You son of a...
And here we go. First pun. Well, I guess but maybe the second. I don't remember what I said when I was a Borg. That's the problem.
Y'all should have like a counter in the corner
like,
for all of the puns.
I think Eric will do that in post later. For
dude, if you would have done that for the Generations episode,
I would have died. I had a hard enough time editing it just from laughing so much.
Exactly. So the edits, it would have taken him like 8 years just to get all the tallies.
This could inspire some kind of a drinking game if we got enough viewers going.
Collective.
It could. Collective, you heard this.
I don't think we get through the pod if it was a drinking game. Like it just.
I'm ready.
cut off
I might
time.
need some refills, but let's go.
So the people would see the timestamp at the end of the episode and they'd be like, oh God, it's an hour-long episode. Drinks before they even begin. They're like, Brittany's just thinking of a pun. I know it. So anyway, we're going to dig deep into the episode itself, how seriously Starfleet takes the particle, and give our own theories as to why it may or may not actually be the case of the burn. But first, we're talking about Voyager, and I love a good Janeway. Captain Janeway can't take on the apocalypse without some coffee. And here's how you can get some. Tired of fresh coffee that loses its kick and tastes the same as every other brand? Unlike coffee that sits on a store shelf weeks after it's roasted, Logical Coffee is made to order and starts with fresh green coffee beans. This Star Trek-themed coffee is roasted to perfection in small batches and sealed away in one-way valve bags as soon as it cools. Your coffee will arrive on your doorstep with the roast date right on the bag, so you know it's the freshest coffee in the Alpha Quadrant. A cup of warp drive? Make it so. Ah, it's out of this world. Don't settle for the same replicated coffee. Make the logical choice and order Logical Coffee. Use the code ASTRANGENEWPOD to get 20% off your first order. Live long and drink coffee. I
had some this morning. It was delicious.
I was gonna say, I just realized the commercial actually pops up in the video, the Twitch video.
That's all Eric. Eric's the mastermind.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Also, shout out to Mag10Mag or Maggie or Meg. I don't really know how you want to do that.
There's coffee in that nebula.
There's coffee in that nebula. That was an okay Janeway. Wow, look at me go.
That was pretty
Kate
good.
Mulgrew. If you ever seen Infinity Train, she voices the cat.
The cat is
Just
so
gonna
good.
throw it out there. Anyway, watch it. So, we told you about our coffee. Now time for my favorite part of every episode. No, it's not the puns. No, it's not the commercial. It's time for a strange new loop. Ooh.
Ooh, we need a sound effect for this.
Yeah, right? We need
do
one.
need to
I
get a sound
was about to do like...
Would it be Black Alert next?
No, right? I was gonna do but that was not right at all.
Different CBS property.
Maybe
Yeah,
some
it's true.
sort of koala-based sound effect.
Oh my God, yes. Because they're
koala
always
face?
quality. They're always quality loops.
What
And
does he?
sometimes
No.
by the
Because
end, you
we-
want to ascend already.
Is it because we all live on the back of a koala
Oh,
and that's
yes.
actually the universe?
Yeah, that could be
Why
it.
does it
Yes.
burn?
Why is it taking so long?
So this was a hard episode for me to loop for because it wasn't a time loop. They don't do a loop at all. And it's kind of a serious episode. So rather than make more jokes about Borgs, I was wondering, since the Omega particle is one of the most powerful, is the most powerful in the universe, if you could name another particle that exists in the Star Trek universe, what would you call it? And what powers would you want it to have?
Ooh.
Right? Decisions.
I have
mean,
one.
Do you want, you can go by just the alphabet again.
I'm going to go with the Kirk particle that makes everyone talk like this.
That's incredible. But there may be life forms on that planet. I have to fuck them right now.
Side effects may include an increased libido.
And the need to Kirk Fu. Oh, sorry. I mean,
Yeah, you got a double
Double
fist.
fist.
oh shit. I didn't think of what I want to do yet.
I was going to say, while I was thinking about this, at and we'll get into this into the episode, but at the end when Janeway's like, I think you've had your first spiritual experience. I was like, I don't know if y'all have ever seen, I think it's a documentary called like The God Particle, and it is about a hallucinogenic drug. And I was like, oh, what I wouldn't pay to see 7 of 9 take some acid.
Oh my God, yes. Could you
Especially
imagine?
early 7 of 9.
Yeah.
She wouldn't
yeah,
she wouldn't be able to like compartmentalize that at all.
Yeah.
No.
So I think I want the 7 of 9 on acid
Oh my God. Yes.
particle, whatever that would be.
See, I think the problem there is that she still has Borg implants and probably Borg nanites and that. I'm sure they would probably synthesize out any sort of like a foreign particulate. So
Why do you got to be logical about this?
Hawk.
I know.
You and the
I'm
logic.
sorry. Bursting your bubble like that.
But maybe they would see it as like a way to open her mind to new experiences, and they wouldn't even know how to handle it.
I think I know what I'd do for my particle now.
All right.
I would make the delta particle, and it would be a particle that you can throw at somebody that you really don't like, and it would yeet them over to the delta quadrant, and then you never have to hear from them again. Just like, kind of like in Discovery where they throw that little like, ball, and then it's like,
Eats them.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
The less violent version of that.
Yeah, I mean, delta's all about change, so it's some form of change.
I have one. It's a way to finally quit the embarrassment of the NX 2000 USS Excelsior. I would call it the Echo particle,
Ooh.
which would just give every single ship transwarp drive, and they would give it.
I knew this is where this was going.
And they would give it to the Excelsior first because sad.
Jesus.
Poor Excelsior. We make fun of it we love it so much and we make fun
We
of
love it so much it's just become a running joke.
So for me, I don't know. I was thinking about some sort of a happiness particle.
So not the acid particle?
Hey,
That sounds like the same one.
everybody loves a
No.
good gamma ray.
No,
Except
I
for
was thinking,
Pike. Oh my god.
The Pike particle where everyone gets
Oh,
on
was
the
it
horse.
Delta Ray? Okay, thank god.
Yeah, you're
Shit.
good.
Whew.
I was looking back over one of my favorite old movies, Kids in the Hall Brain Candy. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that movie.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
A company. Yeah. A company comes up with a drug that basically locks your mind into your favorite memory, your most happiest memory, and kind of uses it to amplify your mood throughout the world. So if I was creating a new particle, it would probably be some sort of a happiness particle.
The brain candy particle.
The brain candy particle, or in reference to the movie, the drug particle.
The joke.
It's like a Tinkerbell. If you clap enough, it gives her energy and she's happy and she can function.
Sure.
You're right.
That's how I function.
That's
as
also how I work. I
sometimes
need
actor.
a constant applause. Why do you think I make all these
Applause
puns?
and attention.
I'm just like, yes, feed. I can survive another day.
More.
Well, I learned something about us now that I know what particles you'd make. Given 1 second to think about it.
Yeah,
Or if
right.
you had more time, you'd be like something way better and makes more sense Star Trek wise.
This was a real strange new loop. Not relate again on our Twitch one. Maybe Raffi can introduce Seven to the joys of Snake Leaf.
I ship it.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, if that relation's going to happen, there's definitely going to be some interesting occurrences. So
7-9's gonna be feeling real 7 of fine. You know what I mean?
maybe she'll become more of a 6 of 9.
Indeed.
That was good.
Indeed.
It's real
Oh,
good.
we're gonna go red alert for that one.
My brain was already going elsewhere, and then that like smacked me up the side of the head. I was like, "Oh,
You're welcome.
classic,
good.
classic, lesbian maneuver." What maneuver are you doing, Janeway? 69. Moving on. Oh, good God. Okay. So, for those that are just tuning in, and maybe you haven't seen this episode, or maybe you have and you just don't really remember what it's about, which is a shame because it's amazing. What's the Omega article? What's the Omega molecule? So, the official description that Janeway gives the crew when Chakotay is like, you should probably let your crew know what's going on, aka me, because I don't know what the fuck is going on. It is one of Starfleet's most classified ongoing mission. So, she can't really talk about it, but finds a way around it because of 7 of 9. She
Because they're
explains,
stuck out in the middle of nowhere, and
Right?
who's really going to know?
yeah, they're like, we're forever away from Starfleet. Where's she getting these orders? Like, it's Janeway or the highway. And there's no highway because they're in the Delta Quadrant. So it's pretty much.
It's just a really long highway.
It's a really long one. Remember, there was like an earlier episode where they had to pass through this one area and they wanted to take a direct course. And this one species is like, no, you got to go here and then here and here. And they're like, that will add years
yeah.
to our time. And they're like, well, we don't need you fucking with our civilizations. Like,
Janeway got really cross with them. That's like one of the few times that she really is just like, I'm gonna fucking kill these people if they don't let us get through their space.
She's like, Tom, plot a course. And they just went.
Yep.
Well, they ended up like cutting through Borg space and catching a deal with the Borg that episode, I think, if I remember correctly.
So,
you might be right.
Yeah, I think that's why they were trying to have them avoid certain areas. Classic. But
Would you say it's been a long road?
Oh my God. You know it was going from there to here.
It took them a real long time.
Their time is finally near.
I don't know the rest of the song. I wish I could. I just know it really.
I literally only know the "It's been a long road" because that's when I hit the skip. Skip
No,
button.
don't skip it. It's so
Always
good.
skip. Always skip.
Never skip.
You know, Eric, one day people will care about that kind of enterprise.
I have it right here.
I can't.
I got no problems with the show. I'm just always going to skip that theme song, much like how I skip the theme song of the L Word sometimes. It just happens.
I thought you were going to name another Star Trek show, and I was like, if she says Deep Space Nine, I'm out.
L-Word?
I was going to walk away.
I don't remember the L
I
words.
don't even remember, and I watched a lot of that show, and I can't remember the
Oh my
theme
God,
song.
it's iconic.
I've never seen the L Word. I feel like
Really good.
it's so
It's
sad
really
because
good.
like I'm a big L Word, you know, and it's just I haven't.
I'm a big L.
I'm a big L Word. I really am. Like in all caps, like neon light.
The new one's also good too.
I swear
I
I'm
watched
going to
it.
get to the description of the Omega particle.
Oh yeah, let's jump there.
I'm
We've
so
been
sorry for everyone listening. So, synthesized omega is the, quote, most powerful substance known to exist. The second most powerful, logical coffee. It's derived from, she didn't actually say that in the show, guys, don't worry. It's derived from extremely rare boronite. I know what you're thinking. Why are the Borg involved? It's not Borgonite. A single omega molecule has the same energy as a warp core, which is really freaking cool, and was first discovered by the Federation in the 23rd century in the search for inexhaustible power source. However, there was an accident and a single particle of omega completely destroyed a Starfleet science station and destabilized an entire region. So, you know, classic Star Trek stakes. So what exactly got destabilized?
Subspace is what
Right?
they said.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's why people think the burn might be a thing, because since there's no way to actually stabilize Omega, even though Seven thinks she can, because she's like, the Borg has studied these, and I can be even better than everyone because I'm 7 of 9, which is so close to being 9 of 9, which would mean that she's 1. And she never loses. So
Math wasn't my strong suit.
it's okay. I think I was making a singularity joke, like she wants to be as perfect as the particle. So any attempts to do so in the past have completely ended in disaster. There's been ruptures in subspace. It makes warp drive completely impossible and affects whole sectors of space. So even the fastest starships wouldn't be able to go more than just sublight, which is not very fast, guys. Not in the Star Trek universe. In our world, it's like, oh man, you can go close to light speed. That's
No, I don't even think sublight is fast in our universe. I think it's like what Musk is working on right now with his stuff.
Well, that's what I mean. Like for us, it's
like NASA times basically.
fast.
Yeah.
But making space travel, it would be next to impossible, and that's the whole reason, you know, Starfleet needs this to be able to explore strange new worlds, things like that. So it's pretty crazy. Because a bigger Omega explosion could completely destabilize an entire quadrant. So yeah, Starfleet and the Federation then classified the incident and created the Omega Directive. And basically told any captain that comes across it, like, you need to destroy the Omega particle at all costs. Even the Prime Directive will be completely nullified for this event.
I mean, and to be honest, we don't always use the Prime Directive
Exactly.
as the Prime Directive. So
I do like how matter of fact Janeway is in the episode about it, though, when Tuvok's like, I'd like to remind you that we're about to break the Prime Directive. And usually Janeway's pretty Prime Directive forward. And then she's just like, you know, we're going to break down that door. Screw the Prime Directive. Like, open it right now. I thought that was great.
They put in some elbow grease.
Well,
Yeah.
I love that part.
on that prop
this
that
whole-
was clearly only like 2 pounds, and they had to make it look like it was so heavy.
And you see like her forearm muscles slightly tensing, and you're like, this is an ounce. It took every ounce of this strength.
Indeed.
So here's our deep dive 9. Deep dive 7 of 9 into
Shut
the
up,
episode.
Wesley.
Damn it. Into the episode, the Omega Directive. So, as any great Star Trek episode or movie begins, Voyager randomly drops out of warp after being hit by a shockwave.
You're gonna skip the beautiful scene between 7 of 9 and Harry Kim, where she reads him for filth, par usual.
I do love that.
And screws over
completely.
his game.
Yeah.
I also love the beginning of the episode where she's literally like talking to her little log, her daily log, and she's like, "This is exactly what we're gonna do." I literally
Dear
parried it in my
diary.
beginning. Yeah, dear diary, Harry Kim and his digressions fucking suck. I allotted 19 minutes for this bullshit.
On our Twitch, Meg10Meg wrote, "I love the Tuvok Harry scene playing Calto.
I do too.
The completed Calto puzzle looks like the Omega particle." Ooh.
It
That's the
did.
point, because then she puts it in there and she's like,
Foreshadowing.
"It's all about harmonic, whatever. What is it? Frequencies? Harmonic."
Harmonic frequencies.
Yeah, I was gonna say harmonic convergence, but that's Legend of Korra, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah,
Wrong fandom.
and then he's like, "I totally would have done that, Tuvok," and like walks away, and I'm like, "You're human. You're nowhere close to perfect like Borg. You never would." Oh man, I love Tuvok's face too because he's not even like impressed or like distressed about what just happens. He just kind of sits there like, Harry's gone.
Okay.
Gotta break it down, start over by myself.
Well, there's an episode where he loses, right? Is that near the finale? And they find out that he has that Vulcan disease. And if he doesn't get back to Earth or Vulcan by a certain time, like it drives him mad, which we see in the, Brittany, I will not spoil that moment. Never mind. Brittany has not finished Voyager
that
yet.
to me right now.
Oh.
In this house. Told me something about Tuvok I don't know yet.
Yep.
I mean, can you
Yeah.
really spoil a show that stopped airing in like 2001?
I just flipped my computer. Ma'am? You want to know how old I was in 2001?
Probably around the same age I was, and I'm still caught up.
Oh,
I can't help it. I watched Deep Space Nine. I didn't get Voyager. I don't
Get
know
on to
why.
that UPN rerun segment. Comes on right after MASH and right before Jeopardy.
I don't know, man. I must have only caught Jeopardy.
Mash at before. Oh, I loved it.
Wow. I just got.
I missed the 90s and the 2000s.
But anyway,
I just got burned. I know we're supposed to be discussing the burn, but I just got burned.
Yes.
So,
we
Maybe
could talk
Myrriah
about
may
how
burn.
we could talk about how Janeway came in and burned the whole bridge as she was just like, "I will do everything. Nobody look at anything. Do not touch screens. Everything to my ready room, please."
we're all fine here. We're fine
I mean,
here.
that's
How are you?
exactly the next part. Because she's like, "I'll totally let you in on this." Closes herself in the ready room for 16 hours. And then,
They
you know,
didn't get really left much of a choice at that point. In that, like
Not
when
really,
they
no.
when they tried to, no, everything just started shutting down, and the Omega symbol just popped up on every sensor monitor.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I
Yeah.
thought it was really cool because it did, like, the minute that she does that and it goes to the credits, you're like, oh shit, like this could be like a really important episode. And I also really liked that usually when something happens like this and a captain's a little bit shady, it usually ends up being like the captain is under like some kind of mind control or is being manipulated by an alien.
or has been
No,
replaced
this
by
was-
somebody.
Yeah. This is straight up just like a Starfleet directive that she needed to follow. There was no like ulterior motive. It was just bam, Omega Directive, pull up the files. And it was really cool.
She's like, "Crew, we have one rule we need to follow. You can't know it, and it's not the Prime Directive." And you're
It
like,
was
"Man,
the Fight Club of Star Trek.
pretty much.
Yeah.
The Omega Directive. Classic. If I would have seen that many Omegas pop up on the screen, I would have been like, "Oh god, Dark Side's about to attack." I just would have been out. Like, my mind would have gone DC. I just would have been like, "Oh god, I'm in space. I'm fucked."
Out of here. Yeah, this episode to me is interesting, and just like I appreciate all of the sort of insights we get into how Starfleet handles some like a new piece of technology like this. I think we've seen this trope a few times where, I mean, even in Discovery, where we see what happens with Control, right? Like they go a little farther over the line than perhaps they should, but then they try to find ways to reel it back, which could involve sending an entire ship into the future by 1,000 years if necessary. And so in this case, you know, we're getting to see the Omega Directive put into place. But I do think it is one of those classic Voyager episodes where they're trying to build tension, but because this is a syndicated show and they will be back on next week, it's hard to believe that there is that much at stake. This was before we really saw a lot of like big characters losing their life, and
or
when
their
we get
legs.
into or their legs or whatever else, we. In preparation for this episode and the discussion around the burn, I went back and watched the episode of Discovery where we lose, oh gosh,
Arium,
Arium, where we lose Arium.
Oh, yes.
That one's rough.
That one is really tough. And I watched it specifically because I wanted to see how in New Trek we were tackling the advancements of technology issue, right? As far as like a parallel, I think, between 90s Trek and New Trek. But it's so bananas to me how fast that episode of Discovery moves in comparison to how slow this episode of Voyager just slightly burns as we're doing calculations and just like reading Harry Kim for filth throughout. And
I can't believe she pulls rank on him. And he's like, "You're Borg. How did you learn to pull rank?" Oh,
I took it from Starfleet. Thank you.
Always an ensign, never a 9 of 10.
I thought that was an interesting point you brought up, Myrriah, too, about like how Starfleet handles things like this, because Starfleet also has this tendency to sweep up the screw ups that they've had and just straight up make it seem like they never happened ever. Like, can't go to warp anymore. Yeah, that's gone. That's a natural phenomenon. Discovery who? Starfleet isn't the I guess the perfect organization that a lot of people think it is, whether Federation planets or whatever. I think it's
They're not good with they're not good with the mea culpa.
Right. And Janeway even does it as she's doing that captain's log walking down the hallway when she is talking about, I finally know how Einstein must have felt with the atomic bomb. And then I now know what the scientists felt like who worked on the Genesis project, which is obviously a reference back to the original movies.
Good old Khan
and
days.
So good old Khan.
Yeah.
But yeah, Starfleet, doesn't like showing its butt, essentially, and tries to find ways to cover it up. But I do appreciate that at least those in leadership seem to try to learn from the mistakes at hand, at least what they have available to them.
Sorry, my favorite moment of the episode was when Seven, was trying to get and assess the situation and that, and she's like, "I suspect the captain will want to talk to me," and that, and then you find out that the captain does want to talk to her, and there's this very specific reason that Seven's so in the loop is that the Borg were assimilating ship captains and already learned about this,
and other civilizations, right? Because it wasn't just-
13.
Yeah.
And
yeah, from her count, it was like they had discovered it 239 years previous.
And they'd been studying it on their own too and trying to test their own theories. And one of the things that I like a lot about this episode is like that sort of, it's not really like tension, but like the pulling of like ideas between Janeway and Seven of Nine, because it's not just the fact that like Seven of Nine is Borg, it's the fact that she's like really into this mindset of like, you shouldn't destroy it, like you need to harness it, like this is how you advance, like it's always about gaining and assimilating and learning. And Janeway,
because she's still thinking like a Borg.
Yeah, she is. But Janeway is, so set on her own directive, like there's a Borg directive versus a Starfleet directive, and that's like the main thing that's butting heads in this episode. But I like how Janeway also understands that. She doesn't agree with it because she says in this case, Starfleet, that we got to do it this way. But at the same time, she doesn't go out of her way to be like rude to Seven or not understanding of why she thinks of this.
Right. Because I think she feels like empathetic towards Seven in this situation because she is another, scientist at heart. Like she came up through Starfleet as a science officer. And so she understands the desire there to explore what the possibilities of something like this would be. And so I do think that's where her empathy for Seven comes in this case, like you were saying, Brittany.
Exactly. And I like how Seven even gives the example of even dealing with the Omega particle or trying to run the certain tests, and how in the past it's destroyed so many Borg ships and just has cost so many resources. And then Janeway's like, well, I get that, but we're also not all of Starfleet. We are one ship alone in the Delta Quadrant, and I got to think of my people. So
yeah, we're not 26 Borg cubes where 600,000 drones are just completely expendable.
Right, but I think we also see, and I don't remember where this is in the seasons, so I'm sorry if this spoils some Voyager for you. But there's the episode where Seven is recaptured by the Borg Queen, and Janeway goes onto the cube, and it's when they have that like kind of mind memory palace while all of the Borgs can sort of be their original selves and interact with each other. And so in that case, Janeway is seeing that the Borg Queen is just destroying the ships that have already sort of been infected with this sort of mind palace situation. I don't know another way to describe it, but she's just willing to let it all go. And Janeway is very emotionally affected by that because she understands that, especially now that they've had all this time with 7 of 9, that all of these are individual people that could be unassimilated and could be de-Borgified. And, we eventually see what that can look like in Picard. But, I think for Janeway seeing that, we can understand that she doesn't think of them as drones. And so when 7 is like still in, only 9 months out of her deprogramming, is like, they were just drones. And Janeway's like, but they're not just drones.
Would you call it the deborging process?
The deborging process?
Yeah, like with your boarding party, the deborging party.
Oh, come on.
Come on, man.
You're welcome.
I'm trying to be nice. I like to let our guests speak. I don't want to pun on top of her. So, I can't. I thought Julian was going to shame me. He didn't.
I thought so too.
I was waiting. I was pausing for it dramatically.
No, I'll just randomly mute you and you won't know it.
Well,
it's too late.
We can't do that. She's the host.
Other than the obvious tension between her and 7 in this episode, you also have the crew themselves who don't, for the majority of the episode, understand what's going on, why they're doing what they're doing. They obey, of course, because their captain is telling them, hey, do this. But I love their little rumor mill that starts to kind of pull, where Harry's like, I don't know, I think she's going to blow up this star and then it's going to create a wormhole and we're just going to jump back through it. Sorry, this isn't Deep Space Nine. You don't just get a wormhole. You don't just get a special wormhole to go home. And then just all their different ideas are funny.
It reminded me of the last Lower Decks episode when they're like, we don't know what's going on. They don't tell us anything.
Exactly. That's what it felt like.
Except the Lower Decks on Voyager is just Harry Kim.
Dude,
Poor Harry Kim.
That's so rude.
Yeah, he's still senior staff because he got to go to that meeting.
He's their senior most ensign.
I don't understand.
What did you guys think about the race they encounter that, when they realized that there was this Omega disaster that happened and they bring some of them aboard and then you learn that they were trying to create sustained energy and learn about it. And obviously 7 takes that one direction. Janeway plans on something different. How did you feel about that species and that part of the plot?
I mean, I think it makes sense to me I see both sides of the argument there, right? That particular person they brought on board is just our planet is going to die if we don't come up with a new alternative energy source. And I think all of us as humans can probably relate to that. Haha.
Yeah, I would die for an Omega particle right now.
I think that would be a possibility. And there are, I think of just even from a human perspective, there have been countless disasters that have happened in search for new alternative energy sources and, even specifically nuclear power, right? And so I think in Star Trek, we often get this, and when we kind of talk about what we do or do not think the burn might be later, I think energy source is going to play a big part into what we see in the next season of Discovery. And I think here, it makes sense because without the ability to, without some sort of power source, whatever that might be, eventually things are going to run out if it is not renewable. And so they're facing this big conundrum and they think they found this way to do it. And obviously Starfleet had also thought they found a way to use it as well. And they're just like, no, we've done this. We've made this mistake. Learn from us, please.
Yeah.
I know that we talked about the Prime Directive earlier and how, encountering this race and destroying their work is a big part of this episode. It's interesting because when they do throw away the Prime Directive and when they, basically Starfleet is when you encounter Omega, Prime Directive is on hold until mission is complete. This is literally General Order 1, complete non-interference. And they completely interfere. I mean, they change the trajectory of this, planet's, well-being, their life. I mean, in all likelihood now, they're all going to be wiped out in however many years it takes, because the guy said all their resources are gone. This is their last best hope. So, to basically damn and doom an entire planet, entire race, is a pretty big deal. And I'm actually a little shocked that we don't feel a little bit like the repercussions from Janeway in this episode, because she takes that stuff very seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she saw. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I just remember one of the earlier episodes, they accidentally wounded this big nebulous creature in that, and, that almost destroyed their ship. And they made a big deal about going back to putting the ship back in harm's way to heal it. So you're right. I really hadn't kind of considered that they've doomed an entire species based on this, based on the Omega Directive and what she had to do, or what she felt she had to do. But yeah.
Well, they would have ended up probably destroying themselves because of their inability to harness it correctly. So I think she inevitably saw what they couldn't see into the future, was that this wasn't going to work. And who knows, maybe they tossed a few dilithium crystals their way as they left.
Right. They're just like,
yeah, that's a good point.
Evolve.
I guess the bigger issue was what would happen if this Omega particle disaster happened in a larger, perspective, in that, they could have completely destabilized warp technology in the entire quadrant. So,
and they didn't know anything about that yet, and they're so focused on getting, creating this renewable resource for their own society that they're not thinking of how it affects the other societies around them. And I mean, I think in a way, 7 and 9 is also doing the same thing, where she's like, no, we can harness it, we can do this, but she's not thinking of the what if it doesn't work, which is Janeway's constantly thinking that this episode, which is why they come up with their contingency plan and everything. That being said, though, when they do they aren't able to harness the Omega molecule and take it onto the ship like 7 and 9 would have wanted, but she is able to watch it successfully bond, and she has those, as she calls it, those 3.2 seconds of pure perfection that she sees. So it does seem that harnessing Omega is possible given the right environment. We just haven't figured that out yet. So that being said, maybe this has something to do with the burn, which is what we're going to discuss now. So, do you think the Omega molecule or particle is responsible for the burn in Disco Season 3? And if so, who decided to mess with it? I know it says again, but at the same time, Discovery is kind of in the past, so it's not the same as Voyager, but it is after the original Starfleet messed with it. I don't know.
Correct. Yeah, I have a couple of theories, but I'll let some other, if anyone else listens to Star Trek Discovery Pod, I love a good theory. It's one of my favorite things. So I have a deep wormhole that I went down, so I'll let other people talk if you have some thoughts.
If it is the Borg, like we had mentioned earlier, I wonder if, because of Picard, the last season of Picard and 7 of 9, connecting back to the collective and downloading all of the newer information, I wonder if that sparked something with her, because she was really into finding that, the perfection of that particle, right? So I wonder if it sparked something in there, and maybe next season of Disco we could see some sort of historical record of her trying to figure out more and more, and then maybe something just happened that caused the burn. That's what I would love to see, at least, if it did go that route.
But isn't Disco before Voyager, so it wouldn't be her?
Well, no, because they moved to the future, right?
The next timeline would be after Voyager.
Gotcha. In the future.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Because I was like, wait, how would that happen?
So the events of Picard causes the burn, which would connect to Disco Season 3.
Oh, then,
or events after Picard, right?
Yeah, because I was going to say, if it's Picard, then would it be the Romulans that are trying to do it? Because you have that whole... I don't know if they'll be that ambitious where they're trying to connect all their new Trek plots together, but do you know what I mean? CBS, I'm not sure if they'll do that.
So that's actually my theory, and I actually think that they would. I don't know. I've been getting this feeling that Kurtzman is trying to connect these universes somehow. I don't know. I could be dead wrong. And I wouldn't put it past the Romulans after what's happened to them. Even during this great exodus and their evacuation, they were never trustworthy of the Federation. They always thought that the Federation wanted something, to the point where not only did they plan the whole attack on Mars, right, which prevented most of their people from being saved. I'm pretty sure the Romulans become an endangered species. I know that when Picard's an admiral still, he managed to evacuate, hundreds of thousands, maybe, a couple of billion, but there's not a lot of them left. And one thing that Romulans do is they're always striving for power. So what do you do when you're no longer one of the main powers in the universe? You seek more power. Why else do they have this is my big thing. Like, why else do they have a Borg cube, right? Why are they experimenting on a Borg cube? They never explained it in Picard season 1. I'm really curious if they found that information about Omega, tried to replicate it, become, basically the great power in the universe, and then boom. And then to go along with that, there's other issues that are causing ruptures in subspace in Star Trek. If you're dating back to Star Trek TNG season 7, they found out that going past warp 5 was doing irreparable damage to subspace. So, combine what the Romulans are doing with ships maybe not following the warp 5 order that Starfleet puts in later on, the galaxy, like Book says, really could take a hard left.
Or what if it's the Discovery reappearing that completely causes the burn? I know that's probably not the case because then they're already told about it, but...
No, because from what I understand, this is something that happened. It's historic. The galaxies had to adapt. I think this is a very good theory in that this quadrant of the space has become I guess want to say post warp, or that warp technology has failed in that, and I think that's probably why the Federation kind of ceased to exist. From what I can equate, it would be like if basically we replaced highways and our combustible engines and went back to Roman stone roads and handmade carts. It's the galaxy took a huge left, and it's not connected. The ability to travel between worlds is gone, and I think from what I understand, it looks like a lot of these civilizations are left on their own.
Yeah, because if they can't visit each other, especially as frequently, if it takes a whole lifetime to get somewhere else again, you're not going to have interaction. You're not going to have evolution and technology. Getting even
There's
better.
no more Myrriah's wormhole.
There's no more connection.
Yeah. So I just as someone who nerds out about television and production and all of that stuff, I do not think there is going to inevitably be this holy trinity of all of these shows connected, because I think part of the reason they wanted to shove Discovery so far in the future is to not have to deal with canon as much. They are letting the writers' room go wild. And so the idea that all of these writers' rooms would have to sit there and chart everything out against each other, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So I think anything that's going to happen in Picard and happen in Lower Decks is not going to be so substantial that it's going to change things another 1,000 years in the future. However, I do think we have to pay attention to something like the short trek Calypso, which I constantly revisit because that is technically the farthest we have ever seen into our Star Trek future, where the Federation doesn't even have the same name anymore. And it, something happened. That guy was basically forced into becoming a soldier when he didn't want to be a soldier. So put into a war, an unnecessary war, probably. And, talks about being on essentially a mining ship at some point, and that I can't remember what he called the Federation, but, this new term that he used, he's all they're obsessed with finding relics of the human past. Right. So I think that can give us a little bit of insight. And the other thing I like to think about when trying to make any predictions about television is typically where we've come from is going to dictate where we're going, right? And what does Discovery love talking about? Crystals. Yep. We love time crystals. We love dilithium crystals.
I feel like it's definitely going to be involved with the technology her mom was working on. As much as I wanted to connect to this, it probably won't.
Right. It's would it be nice to throw it back to all of that? Sure. But I think the writers of New Trek really like having some sort of commentary on our current moment, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, there's a line in the trailer where Burnham says the Federation is more than just as ships, which I do think plays into the idea that perhaps we have lost the ability to warp travel. And this is why Discovery would be so important because of the mycelial network. Mm-hmm. But is it because of the Omega, or is it just because we've essentially ruined subspace with the travel we were already doing? Like, we are the causes of our own issues, which I think is something they would totally love to talk about.
Yeah,
how
for sure.
Are fucking ourselves over. And then dilithium crystals in and of itself are also a controversial subject within Star Trek because they're mined usually by people who are not treated very well. We also saw like our logic extremists in season 2. So perhaps these logic extremists who saw what was happening to subspace thought the only way to get rid of this problem is to get rid of dilithium crystals. And somehow the burn was the burn of all the dilithium crystals.
That would be pretty sweet.
So like that's my theory.
Like they ran out of, they could have also run out of, like mirroring our fossil fuels, they could have just run out of dilithium crystals too. I do like the idea that Brittany said about maybe Discovery also causing the issue. Like, I wonder if they didn't immediately just jump to the future. Like they randomly hit different spots in time. And maybe cause some of this.
I was just thinking the sheer amount of energy they used when that happened could have had repercussions. But then again, I also don't want the show to be about just how Discovery's constantly fucking shit up. They're like,
true. That's
wait,
true.
what happened to space? Yeah. I have never heard of a ship called Discovery because we can't talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, that would be funny fitting into canon and lore that way, because that would answer the plot holes, but also no one would be able to know about it. I don't know if they'll do it though.
I like Myrriah's answer in that, because when you hear the burn in that, it kind of calls up to mind like a crucible or some kind of a purge.
Yeah,
right.
That's what it seems like. And you got like add a guess type of thing.
Naira on our Twitch also kind of agrees with Myrriah here. I don't know how much they'd want to mess with Picard and hamstring that show as well. They said so. That's something I do want to say that I don't know how much it would hamstring Discovery basically connecting one single episode. I think, let's say that Omega is the burn, right? All that does is give us what the problem was, and then the rest is up to Discovery, and the writers, I think, could still go crazy. We put it in the notes here. If that is the case, Discovery is the focus. Discovery is the most important ship because it has a way of traveling without warp drive at near instantaneous speeds. So, I think that's interesting. I had one more quick theory too, that the Federation could have just said, fuck the Omega Directive, and said, we are, like Eric said, running out of dilithium crystals and we need to revisit Omega. So the Omega Directive is gone, and bam, what does the Federation and Starfleet do? They cause the burn. So then you're not even really dealing with, having to deal with canon except mentioning Omega.
And maybe like the blowback from that caused the Federation to disband, right? Like,
well, yeah, because planets were already wanting to secede from the Federation over, getting, refugees from Romulus. So,
and that's kind of what we discussed before when we initially saw the trailer and we were talking about what the burn might be, and we're like, maybe it's the fallout of all these groups or whatever.
I mean, it could also be because they said in the Star Trek Day, like Q&A, Kurtzman and Michelle Paradise were talking about how at the time of the burn, the Federation was very strong and one cataclysmic sort of event caused this major fallout. And so if it does become, it's essentially the inability for everyone to connect and travel and trade with each other, that would be like if all of a sudden we couldn't have planes or boats go across oceans, right? And so that would automatically shrink all of our capabilities on the planet to be able to communicate and trade with all these other places, and it's going to cause strife. And the trailer feels very like Wild Westy to me. Yeah. It feels very Western, and so which I love a space Western, who doesn't? And And so, to me, that gives off the vibe of like when there's the great run to get oil or the gold rush, and like there's something that's causing people to have to go very insular or to, essentially mine their own environments to prosper. And so if some of these planets don't have access to anything that can help them get off of their own planets, then they're essentially screwed.
Yeah. And I like how one of the... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Eric.
No, go for it, man.
I was going to say, one of the main reasons a lot of people were going with this Omega theory for the burn is, because in the episode, they mentioned that, like, they've referred to... like the effects that the Omega particle has on subspace as being like the sky itself is burning, like subspace is burning. So a lot of people are like pulling that, but I think the terminology of it burning, it might not have anything to do with the fact that they mentioned that in Omega Directive. Like Picard's family also burned to death, and it's not going to be the cause of it.
Oh, we went there.
Anyway, I had to make a joke. It's been so long. I was being so polite. Anyway, but what I'm trying to say, in all seriousness, is like it's more so it could possibly be the burning of those bridges, those connections between all the planets and groups of people. So sometimes I think we take burn maybe either too literally, or maybe it's figuratively, or maybe the show's going to pull a fast one and be like, it's the first half of Burnham. So like, just to be like, haha, aren't we clever? It's not. I hope she's not the cause, dear God.
Again, right? Like you don't
I can't handle
another
it.
Michael
I love
being
her.
the cause of disaster.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to make her the root cause of a disaster, because someone, I think it was Anthony Rapp or somebody in a Q&A was talking about how much Sonequa Martin Green had so much fun on this particular season, and she commented it was because her character essentially no longer has to live in fear and gets to just live in this point of exploration and joy.
Nice.
And so I think it's them finally releasing her of being like, you are the burden of this season.
Yeah. And she's like, first of all, it's pronounced Burnham, not burden.
Yes.
Second of all, I'm going to enjoy myself. I love
Do
it.
you guys think that we're going to see like a flashback, either sequence or episode in the next season where we go back to this like high time of the Federation and see the burn happen?
I hope so.
I'd love that.
I would hope so too. And I think they've put up all the titles on Wikipedia of all of the episodes. And one of them is called, if you don't want a spoiler, you can fast forward 2 seconds.
Okay.
It's called the Forget-Me-Nots. And so I would assume, and it's episode like 3, which would be a prime time for us to get a flashback.
You said prime directive. I love when people say like words and you're just like, Star Trek. I was like at work today. Someone mentioned Nausicaa or Nausicaans or something.
That's
and
awesome.
I went into a whole like thing about between Studio Ghibli and Star Trek.
We need business cards. You should have just given up.
Yeah.
Hey, you should listen
We
to
do.
our
I was going to ask Julian about that. Stickers or cards? I want to start.
We're gonna
throwing
make.
them at people.
I have plans. I have plans. They're gonna have Brittany's face in a Starfleet uniform that just say "Shut up, Brittany" in the podcast.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they're still doing warp in this, or at least it sounds like they're still doing warp in the future, because in Enterprise we see that there are time shifts. At least there are time shifts, but I guess they didn't. That's just going to get all
But that's just time
thrown
crystals,
away, just
right?
like Enterprise.
Eric, isn't this even after the time the Federation, when they are the time police and the captain from Voyager? Like after what happened to that captain, they might have shut the whole time division of
That's fair.
Starfleet down.
Because the
Time's
Enterprise,
a fickle beast.
the Enterprise J was from the 26th century, and they're going to 32, right?
32, yeah. And
Damn.
Enterprise J was fugly.
Yeah, it was sort of.
I want a chart with all these different time periods so I can start to map it out. And where can we
I'm
put
sure
the
there's somewhere on the
little
internet.
flames? Oh yeah,
there's
it's already
plenty
there.
of those. Yeah.
You need a board like the one in your background with
Yes.
timelines.
Yes,
we have
exactly.
we have a question from Magmag on Twitch. For 7, the Omega particle is the god for the Borg. Do you think the burn is apocalyptic?
For the Federation, yeah. I'm not sure for like all life or I don't know. It depends on what they do. We don't have enough information, but if it is a burn that affects a whole quadrant, for example, like we're discussing, if it is the Omega particle, that would be crazy, because that would be very apocalyptic to especially not spacefaring societies. Like if you're, I guess, a primitive prime directive, like don't mess with us planet, that would be crazy. You would see the sky like subspace burning, and you would probably think it was something apocalyptic and horrible.
Well, is it, and you think about, again, not trying to connect the series too much, but you talk about what the Zod Vosh think is going to happen to the universe, and maybe the thing that they saw at the end of the horrible Picard season is the burn. They kind of just put that thing back in a wormhole for later on.
And I wonder how much they, like the writers of Disco, want to connect to the past, to like something as, I don't want to say obscure as the Omega particle, just because they want to bring in new fans. This show has seemed like the show that they want to bring new people in that aren't hardcore into the history like we all seem to be.
Yeah.
But they're also pulling from that, right?
I don't see it as being like apocalyptic to the, when apocalypse means like civilization, world's just ending, and that this seems to, there's implications that there's some sort of an ideological shift after some sort of cataclysmic event.
And then Mag also points out like how much religious metaphor is going on. And I would say if they're using metaphor, they love a good religious metaphor on Discovery. So we had plenty with the Red Angel. We see it show up pretty frequently as far as like how they're paralleling things. So is it possible we're going to get more of that? For sure. I also, another thing from the trailer I wanted to point out is we get a literal tree hugging moment from Tilly. So to me, that also signals something, I think, to do with the environment. Like something is going to happen within an environment. Could it possibly be that like Earth essentially isn't inhabitable by people anymore? That could also be very interesting, since that is such a huge base for the Federation itself, especially since the planet that Kraft is from in Calypso is Alcor, and the Alcor system is within the Alpha Quadrant, which is the same quadrant as Earth. And so he's like, oh, there's now human settlements on this planet, and 1,000 years beforehand, there was not. And so it's like, we get to play with the time thing as well, because, we don't know when the Disco crew is going to abandon Discovery. Like, is this, she says she hasn't had a crew in 1,000 years. So is this an additional 1,000 years? Has the crew had to abandon the ship from the moment they get there? Anyway, there's lots of fun questions in there.
I like not knowing.
Yeah.
It's more fun.
just real quick on the apocalypse thing. I think I definitely don't think they're going that route specifically, because and Myrriah, correct me if I'm wrong on that. It's Michelle Paradise, right? One of the executive producers. She says very much the Federation is still very much alive. Not like struggling, but like alive, but just, trying
not
to
as
survive.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they're alive, but they're not thriving.
Yeah. Exactly.
On Twitch, WYSIWYG wrote, Disco has never mentioned Omega. I don't think they would predicate an entire season over something that was never in prior seasons. The answer is within.
I agree on that. And that was one of the first things I thought too when people discussed that Omega could be the reason for the burn. I did say like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Like I didn't think of that. But at the same time, it's also such like a one-off episode in Voyager, like that it would be one thing if it was brought up a lot throughout Star Trek, or it was something that continued to be a theme, but the fact that it's just this one really strong episode and then a reference to it happening in the past, I just don't see how that would then, spark an entire season of a new show.
Right.
But it would be neat if it is that, because then you'll be like, wow, that was pretty cool. But I don't know. I don't think they'll do that. So is that it for everybody's theories and thoughts on this subject?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then let's move to our handy dandy mailbag, and also whoever's live on Twitch and wants to give us some other opinion.
Hailing frequencies are open.
I love that sound.
I cut you off there. Sorry.
It's fine. I ramble on, so it's best to cut me off. So we have Rob, who goes by Digi1701. With all their talk about the new season freeing them from the constraints of established canon, I'm not sure they go right back to the well like that, especially for something that's kind of he said the same thing, kind of a one-off episode deep cut. I didn't read this mailbag. I'm sorry.
I didn't either.
Before we started.
Okay, yeah. I was like, oh man. My guess is that they'll keep it, quote, within the family. Discovery saved the present, 2257. I like that they include a date. Thank you. But can't stop the inevitable. And the planet-burning future Michael's mom saw was trying to stop, still happens. I mean, Possibly.
Sorry,
I did
it goes
say
on to
it
the
could
next page.
be
My
connected to the
bad.
mom. Oh no, there's another page. Here we go. I'm scrolling.
That's why you
Is there-
print it out, damn it.
I don't see
Well,
anything.
the other
best.
page is
There is
blank.
nothing on
Are
the
you-
next
Yeah,
page.
Yeah, are you-
there's nothing.
Well, I'll read it.
So, sir, were you taking the same drugs that 7 and 9 might allegedly be on? Are you high
No,
right now?
I lied. I forgot that I double printed. Double side printed. Maybe I shouldn't print them out anymore.
Well,
Save
I'm
a tree.
sure whatever they said next was very riveting.
It wasn't because it's not there.
Well,
It
just like
transported away.
the burn, it completely destroyed everything you created.
Sad face.
Someone hit
Mhm.
backspace on our Google Drive or something. You know what I mean? Like, wow.
The Omega
Well-
particle went in there.
Yikes. Twitch peeps, if you're still there, do you have any thoughts? I know you shared many awesome ones, so that's cool. I know it's hard because we're all just theorizing together, but sometimes we're
Mhm.
right.
Can I just say that I have not been like so excited for a series of television? I think since I don't know, maybe the Battlestar days. Like I don't know. I mean, I was
agree.
psyched for new Star Trek to come on, right? When they announced Discovery and obviously when they announced Picard, which we'll talk about all the time, lets me down a bit. I can't wait for season 3 of Discovery. I'm just like itching. I'm so excited that we've had this. What is it, like 27 straight weeks of Star Trek? It's awesome.
Yeah, it's been really cool.
And Meg wrote on Twitch. Do we know the name of Book's big cat?
Yes. we
yeah,
do.
hold on.
It's Grudge.
Yeah, I was about to
Grudge.
say, it's like
Ooh.
a G name.
Badass.
Mag like that I brought up BSG.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think I'm the same. Like I don't think I've been as excited as I was for this season as I was for I think maybe the last season of BSG, which really disappointed me. So yeah.
Hey guys,
The
if it,
last season of
Yes.
season of BSG was amazing. I
Agreed.
gotta say, on my rewatch, like all the
Like this.
individual episodes going in,
I feel like it's the last episode just ruined the whole season for me.
I guess.
We have
Oh,
another Twitch from WYZZYWIG. I hope I pronounced that right. I think that's James, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's my spouse.
Oh, there we go.
hello, spouse.
Hello, Myrriah's spouse. Didn't some control juice leak out of Leland before he died?
Bro, you right.
Yeah, didn't it?
That's the leak
I
before
don't
the
think it did.
like an acid burn.
I think
Oh.
that it all got magnetized. I could be wrong. I don't think. I think Leland's Dunsky's.
I think
Wait.
Leland's done, but I think Controls continued on.
Well, wasn't the whole point to that
From
people
him.
wouldn't?
I don't know.
They did not.
That's why they went to the future.
Yeah. Leland was a kind of a bit of a plot hole, I think, going into season 3, because you see Giorgio mess him up and magnetize all the little bits, but wouldn't the bits still technically be there in the mycelial chamber? Like it's
It's all fungi
know.
in there. You know, it could be
I'm
one fungi's
currently-
parts. It could also be a bunch of fungi.
I'm currently doing a rewatch of Discovery, so when I get to that episode, I'll let you know.
I have a very important question, guys. So if it ends up being, or I guess statement, I don't know if this is a question. If it ends up being the Omega particle that causes this burn, right? It will now be the third time that Starfleet has dealt with a Omega-related fiasco, which would make it an Omega-3. So I'm wondering, will it just be a super fish oil problem? Superficial? I know you all hate me because I really built that up.
I thought you were going to go towards in some sort of egg metaphor or something.
Nope.
You went straight to the fish one.
Nope.
or the dolphins from
Super fish oil.
yeah.
You know, I will say though, we do love saving whales in
Yeah.
the Star Trek universe. And so if this links back to the environment, perhaps all of the fish have burned away and now we have no sources of omega-3s.
And,
Goodbye
and we have no
goodbye
supplements.
and thank you for all the fish.
Yes, so long and thanks for all the.
Maybe they're all on the starships now, just
Hanging out.
Hanging
in
out there,
tanks.
Like in
starfish,
the Christopher Nolan movie
space
shit.
jellyfish, Interstellar.
Interstellar, thank you.
I was like
That
the
one.
space one, Tenet,
space
the time one, Batman, the Batman one. I love Chris Nolan, but like, come on,
The magic one. The prestige.
yeah, Prestige, the
Oh, I
magic
love that
one.
movie. Oh my god.
Love it.
Oh man, I guess that's all we have for today. Unless our Twitchy guys, they said wah wah wah.
I think they were making a wah 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 at your pun.
I know.
Wah,
Wah, wah, wah, wah. You're welcome. So if that's it for all of our theories for now, I guess if they drop any more information, we can talk about it much more. But this is all we got right now until they give us some other cool images or maybe some weird quote that will finally solidify what it means. I doubt that'll happen.
I mean, yeah, we have 2 weeks until the first episode.
They're not gonna
so
say.
I think
Less than 2 weeks.
Can't wait.
My body's ready. So, Myrriah, it was a pleasure as always to have you on. If you want to shamelessly plug yourself and your podcast here, by all means do so because we love you and your podcast.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So you can follow me on all social medias. I'm at Myrriah Gossett. That's Myrriah with a Y and a Gossett with 2 S's and 2 T's. And I am a co-host on the Star Trek Discovery Pod, which you can find wherever you get your podcasts. And we also live stream on Thursday nights, and our live streams are available immediately after on YouTube. And our episodes drop in the Pod Store on Fridays. And we can't wait for Discovery. But right now, we are covering Lower Decks, so you can join us for commentary over there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. And it's already later in the evening. So those of you listening live and waiting for our quick edit and throw online, before you get burned out.
No.
No. Remember,
Hit it.
sorry, I just wanted to see Julian's face when I said it. Remember that 7 of 9 of our listeners would definitely recommend tuning in live to Twitch. But if you can't, you can always catch our episodes right after they're edited and thrown out there. And if you really enjoy,
Not this one. Not this one.
not this one,
Not till
Well, it's not
Friday,
like
but you
right-
can catch the replay directly following this.
I wasn't saying today, but
Oh,
I
I thought you
mean,
meant
like
today.
once it's
Sorry.
edited and out there. And then if you really love it, you can watch our videos like our whole Twitch stream live. Once they're edited by the amazing Eric with lots of cute little pictures and sound effects and stuff, and it's going to be up on YouTube. I can't tell you what day, but it'll happen.
Mm.
So for all
I
of
will
us,
add more badgie.
yes, all of
Badgie.
Badgie. For all of us tonight,
How can I help you?
exactly.
Fun fact.
I'm gonna rip out your eyes. So for all
off your
of
foot.
eyes, us, I don't know, I tried. Julian, me, Eric, Myrriah, and Hawk, we're gonna tell you to live long and prosper and join our collective.
Majram.
Mushroom.
Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.